The lights of Nexus Prime Station blazed against the darkness of space like a small artificial sun. Ships from 100 different worlds docked at its massive ports every day. Inside the station's grand halls, aliens of every shape and size walked together, conducting business that connected entire star systems. Commander Sarah Chun stood near a tall window, watching the ships come and go. She wore her Earth military uniform, dark blue with silver insignia on the shoulders. The fabric felt heavy compared to what most aliens wore, but she had gotten used to the stares. Humans were still new here. Still strange. "Commander Chun," a voice called behind her. She turned to see Ambassador Williams approaching, his face tight with worry. "The banquet is about to begin. Are you ready?" Sarah nodded. "As ready as I'll ever be, sir." The banquet hall was enormous. Tables stretched in long rows beneath a ceiling that showed a projected view of the galaxy. Hundreds of alien delegates filled the room, their conversations creating a buzz of different languages. Translation devices made most of it understandable, but the sheer variety of sounds was overwhelming. Sarah walked to the human delegation's table. There were only 12 humans at the entire event. 12 people representing all of Earth among thousands of aliens. She felt the weight of it. The food arrived on floating platforms. Each species received dishes suited to their biology. Sarah looked at the pale paste on her plate and tried not to compare it to real food back home. The station did its best, but Earth cuisine was still rare out here. "I hear your world is quite primitive," a voice said from across the table. Sarah looked up to see a Crithian warrior staring at her. He was massive, easily 7 feet tall, with scales that shimmered green and gold under the lights. His eyes were yellow with vertical pupils, and when he smiled, she saw rows of sharp teeth. "We're developing quickly," Sarah replied, keeping her voice neutral. The Crithian laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. "Developing, yes, that is what weak species say." He stood up, and the conversations around them began to quiet. "I am Varash, champion of Krithia. We have heard much about humans, small, soft, from a water world with barely any threats." Sarah felt her jaw tighten. She knew where this was going. Earth has plenty of threats. Oh. Varash walked around the table toward her. Other aliens were watching now, interested. "Tell me, human, what is the most dangerous creature on your world?" Sarah thought about it. "We have many. Large predators, venomous animals, diseases." Varash laughed again. Several other Crithians at nearby tables joined in. "Diseases. She speaks of illness as a threat." He turned to the crowd. "On Krithia, our young fight sandboars with their bare hands as a coming-of-age ritual. Creatures with armor plating and acid blood. Your species fears germs." The room filled with various sounds of alien amusement. Sarah felt heat rising in her face. Ambassador Williams put a hand on her arm, a warning to stay calm. "We have fought wars among ourselves for thousands of years," Sarah said quietly. "We know combat. Fighting each other." Varash leaned down, bringing his face close to hers. His breath smelled like sulfur. "That proves nothing except that you prey on your own kind. The mark of a weak species. No wonder the council debates whether to grant you full membership." Sarah stood up. She was tall for a human woman, nearly 6 feet, but Varash still towered over her. "We've survived on our world just fine." Survived is not the same as thrived through strength. Varash straightened. "I challenge you, human. A duel of honor. Let us see if your species truly deserves a place among the strong races of the council." The room went completely silent. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. She knew what a refusal would mean. Humans would be seen as cowards. Their application for full council membership would be delayed, maybe denied. Earth needed the resources and technology the Council offered. Commander Chun, Ambassador Williams whispered urgently. You don't have to accept. We can handle this diplomatically. Sarah looked around the room. She saw the alien faces watching her. Some looked amused. Others looked curious. A few seemed sympathetic, but those species were not the powerful ones. The ones who made decisions in the Council were species like the Crithians, who valued strength above all else. I accept, Sarah said clearly. Varash's smile widened. Excellent. Tomorrow, in the ceremonial arena, we will use the old rules. Each fighter brings what they choose. No outside interference. The duel ends when one yields or cannot continue. He paused. I promise to leave enough of you intact that your doctors can repair the damage. More laughter from the Crithian tables. Sarah just nodded as Vorash returned to his seat. The room slowly returned to normal conversation. But Sarah noticed the looks. Aliens from dozens of species were watching her now, whispering to each other. Some looked excited. Others looked pitying. Sarah, what have you done? Ambassador Williams asked quietly. What I had to, sir, Sarah replied. Her hands were shaking slightly, and she clasped them together under the table. We can't back down. Not now. Not ever. That's what they're waiting for. Proof that we're weak. He's a trained warrior. Their champion. You're a ship commander. Sarah smiled grimly. I grew up in Detroit, sir. I've done 3 tours in combat zones. I'm not helpless. She didn't mention the cold fear settling in her stomach. The rash was right about one thing. Crithians were legendary fighters. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She stood in her assigned quarters, going through combat drills from memory. Punches, kicks, grappling moves. Her muscles remembered the training, years of martial arts and military combat instruction. But would it be enough against an alien warrior bred for battle? She thought about Earth, about the high gravity that made every movement harder, about the storms and the predators and the 1,000 ways the planet tried to kill humans every day. Maybe Vorash was wrong. Maybe surviving Earth meant something more than he understood. Tomorrow she would find out. The arena awaited. The ceremonial arena occupied an entire section of Nexus Prime. Sarah had seen it on station maps but never visited. Now, standing in the preparation room, she could hear the crowd through the thick walls. Thousands of aliens had come to watch. You still have time to withdraw, Ambassador Williams said. He stood with 3 other human delegates, all looking worried. Sarah shook her head. She wore a simple black combat suit, the kind used for training exercises. No armor, no weapons. She had thought carefully about what to bring. Weapons she didn't know how to use against an alien opponent would only slow her down. What's the crowd size? Estimates say 15,000, Williams replied. Representatives from most council species. This has become a major event. Great. No pressure. Sarah rolled her shoulders, loosening the muscles. The station's artificial gravity was set to standard council levels, which was lighter than Earth's. She felt almost bouncy, like she could jump higher than normal. It was a small advantage. A tone sounded. It's time, Williams said. The arena floor was a circle of white sand 50 meters across. Seating rose in tiers around it, packed with alien spectators. Lights blazed down from above. Sarah walked to her starting position, her boots crunching in the sand. The noise of the crowd washed over her like a wave. Across the arena, a gate opened. Vorash emerged, and the crowd roared. He wore traditional Crithian battle armor, made of overlapping scales that matched his own natural plating. He carried a curved blade on his belt and a long staff in his hands. He raised the staff above his head, and the crowd roared louder. Sarah stood quietly, hands at her sides. She controlled her breathing like she had learned in training. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Stay calm. A holographic referee appeared in the center of the arena. It spoke in a neutral voice that the translation devices rendered in every language. This is a challenge duel under Council Honor rules. Each combatant has brought their chosen equipment. The duel continues until one yields, loses consciousness, or is unable to continue. Lethal force is forbidden. Medical teams stand ready. Do both combatants accept these terms? I accept, Varash called out. I accept, Sarah said. Begin. Vorash moved first. He was fast, incredibly fast for something his size. The staff whirled in his hands as he charged across the sand. Sarah dodged to the side, barely avoiding the first strike. The staff whooshed past her head with enough force to crack bone. She tried to close the distance, to get inside his reach where the staff would be less effective. But Varash was well trained. He kept her back with quick jabs and sweeping strikes. The staff caught her shoulder, and pain exploded down her arm. She stumbled back. The crowd made various sounds of satisfaction. This was going as they expected. Sarah circled, trying to find an opening. Varash followed, staff ready. You are quick for a human, he said. But quickness without strength is nothing. He attacked again, a series of rapid strikes from different angles. Sarah blocked one with her forearm and immediately regretted it. The impact sent shock waves through her bones. She ducked under the next strike and rolled away. She needed a different approach. Direct confrontation wasn't working. Sarah had trained in multiple fighting styles, but most of them assumed opponents roughly her size and strength. Vorash was neither. The staff came at her again. This time, she didn't try to block. She moved her whole body, letting the staff pass by her. She was faster in the lighter gravity, but Varash's raw power made up for any speed advantage. Minutes passed. Sarah took several more hits. Her ribs ached. Her left arm had gone numb from blocking. The crowd's enthusiasm was fading. Some aliens were already leaving their seats. This fight was proving less interesting than they had hoped. The human was simply getting beaten. But Sarah noticed something else. She was still standing. Varash's strikes would have killed or crippled most species. But humans were built differently. Bones denser than most aliens realized. Muscles that could absorb tremendous punishment. On Earth, where gravity pulled harder and everything was more dangerous, humans had evolved to take damage and keep going. Varash noticed too. His breathing was becoming heavier. Prithians were strong, but they were also cold-blooded. Extended fighting in the station's temperature drained them. Why do you not fall? He demanded, frustration creeping into his voice. Sarah didn't answer. She was conserving energy, waiting, watching. Varash threw down the staff. Enough playing. He drew the blade from his belt. The weapon gleamed under the arena lights, its edge looking sharp enough to split atoms. This blade was forged in the heart of a dying star. It is never broken. It has never failed. He advanced with the sword raised. The crowd grew quiet again, sensing the duel was reaching its conclusion. Sarah watched the blade. Watched how Varash held it. Watched the angle of his approach. He was preparing for a finishing strike, something dramatic for the crowd. Varash lunged, the blade sweeping down in an arc meant to end the fight. Sarah didn't dodge. Instead, she stepped forward, inside the strike. Her hand shot up and caught the blade between her palms. The arena went silent. Varash's eyes widened in shock. He pulled on the sword, trying to wrench it free. Sarah held on. Her hands were bleeding where the edge cut her palms, but she didn't let go. On Earth, she had trained with grip exercises until her hands could crush rock. She had grown up in gravity that constantly pulled her down, forcing every muscle to work harder just to move. She saw the moment of understanding in Varash's eyes. He realized his mistake. Sarah twisted her hands and pulled. The sword, forged in stellar fire and supposedly unbreakable, snapped in half with a crack that echoed through the arena like thunder. For a moment, nobody moved. Vorash stared at the broken blade in disbelief. Sarah stood holding the upper half, blood dripping from her palms onto the white sand. Then the arena exploded in noise. Aliens were shouting, standing, pointing. Some were cheering. Others were demanding explanations. The sound was deafening. Sarah dropped the broken blade and moved. While Vorash was still stunned, she closed the gap between them. She used a judo throw, redirecting his weight in the lighter gravity. The massive Crithian hit the sand hard. Before he could recover, Sarah was on him. She used holds and pressure points, techniques meant to control without killing. Vorash struggled, but his armor was working against him now, limiting his movement. Within seconds, Sarah had him pinned. "Yield," she said quietly. Vorash struggled once more, then went still. "I yield," he said, his voice barely audible. Sarah stood up and stepped back. She raised her bleeding hands, not in triumph, but in acknowledgement. The arena was chaos, but she barely heard it. She had done what she came to do. Humans were not weak. The medical bay was quiet compared to the chaos of the arena. Sarah sat on an examination table while a Valorian doctor worked on her hands. The doctor had 3 arms and skin that looked like purple glass. It used delicate instruments to seal the cuts on her palms. "The damage is superficial," the doctor said in a musical voice. "You are fortunate. Another few millimeters, and you would have severed important tendons." It paused, studying her. "I have never treated a human before. Your tissue density is remarkable. And your bone structure. May I ask, what is the gravity on your homeworld?" 9.8 meters per second squared, Sarah replied. "Why?" The doctor made a sound like wind chimes. "That explains much. That is nearly twice standard galactic norm. No wonder you are so resilient." It finished sealing the second cut. "There. You should avoid heavy gripping for a day or 2. But you will heal quickly." "Thank you," Sarah said. She left the medical bay and found Ambassador Williams waiting outside with a dozen other humans. They looked excited and worried at the same time. "The Crithian delegation is demanding a full investigation," Williams said immediately. "They claim you must have used some kind of enhancement. Hidden technology. Chemical augmentation. Something." Sarah felt exhausted. "I didn't use anything." "You know that." "We do. But they want proof. The council has ordered a complete medical examination. Full body scans. Genetic analysis. Blood work. Everything." "Fine," Sarah said. "I have nothing to hide." The examination took 3 hours. Teams of doctors from different species poked, prodded, scanned, and sampled. They tested her strength, her reflexes, her bone density. They sequenced her DNA. They measured everything they could think of. When it was finished, the head examiner, a Thelonian with tentacles instead of arms, delivered the results to a hastily assembled council hearing. Sarah sat in the witness section, still wearing the same black combat suit, now torn and dirty from the fight. The examiner spoke in a flat, professional tone. "The human subject shows no signs of technological enhancement, genetic modification, or chemical augmentation. She is, by all measures we can determine, a baseline example of her species." The examiner paused. "However, her physical capabilities are significantly above what council databases indicated for humans." A council member, a floating jellyfish-like creature, spoke up. "How significant?" The examiner consulted a datapad. "Bone density, approximately 40% higher than galactic average. Muscle fiber composition optimized for both strength and endurance. Cardiovascular efficiency well above expected ranges. Hand grip strength." It paused. Exceptional. Nearly 3 times what we would expect for a being of her mass. Another council member, this one resembling a walking plant, leaned forward. These measurements differ substantially from the data Earth submitted with their council application. Ambassador Williams stood. Earth submitted accurate data, but we measured using our own standards, our own baselines. We didn't realize how different those were from galactic norms. Explain, the floating jellyfish demanded. Williams pulled up a holographic display of Earth. Our planet has higher gravity than we. Understood was typical. Our atmosphere has higher oxygen content. Our temperature ranges are more extreme. Our biosphere is more competitive and dangerous. He showed images of Earth's predators: lions, bears, crocodiles, sharks. We evolved alongside creatures that could kill us easily. We survived by being tough, adaptable, and resilient. The council chamber filled with murmuring voices in dozens of languages. The Crithian representative stood. It was not Varish, but another of his species, older and wearing more elaborate armor. This does not change the fundamental question. Humans deliberately misrepresented their capabilities. We did not, Williams replied firmly. We simply didn't understand how unusual we were. Ignorance is not an excuse. Sarah stood up. She wasn't supposed to speak, but she didn't care anymore. We didn't try to hide anything. We answered every question honestly. It's not our fault your assumptions were wrong. The chamber went quiet. The Jellyfish Council leader drifted forward. Commander Chun, you broke a Crithian star-forged blade with your bare hands. Such weapons are considered nearly indestructible. Nearly isn't the same as absolutely, Sarah replied. Everything has a breaking point. I found it. You defeated one of the Crithian's finest warriors. Sarah looked at the Crithian representative. I defeated him fairly, under the rules he chose. If he wants a rematch with different rules, I'll consider it. The Crithian scales flushed dark green, a sign of anger. But another voice spoke from the gallery. That will not be necessary. Everyone turned. Voresh himself entered the chamber. He walked slowly, with a slight limp from the fight. He approached the council podium and bowed in the traditional Crithian manner. I challenged Commander Chun, Voresh said. I set the terms. I chose the weapons. She defeated me honorably. To demand an investigation now is to question my own judgment and skill. He turned to face the Crithian representative. Would you insult me further, cousin? The older Crithian scales shifted from dark green to neutral gray. No, champion. I would not. Voresh turned to Sarah. You fought well, human. Better than I expected. Better than I believed possible. He reached to his belt and removed something, a small piece of the broken sword. I give you this as acknowledgement. You have earned respect. Sarah took the piece of blade. It was still sharp, still gleaming. Thank you. You fought with honor as well. Voresh nodded and turned to the council. I recommend that humans be granted full council membership. They have proven themselves worthy. The chamber erupted in debate. Some species agreed. Others protested. The arguments went on for hours. But Sarah noticed something important. The tone had changed. Before the duel, aliens spoke about humans with dismissal or amusement. Now they spoke with caution, with respect, even with fear. Finally, the council leader called for order. This session is concluded. The council will take time to review this new information about human physiology. A decision on Earth's membership status will be made within 30 standard days. The session ended. Sarah left the chamber surrounded by human delegates. Outside, news feeds from across the galaxy were already running the story. Video of the duel was spreading. The moment she broke the sword had been captured from a dozen angles. It was becoming famous. What happens now? Sarah asked Williams. The ambassador smiled tiredly. Now we wait. But I think things are going to be very different for humanity from this point forward. He looked at her bandaged hands. You've changed everything, Sarah. For better or worse, the galaxy knows what we are now. Sarah looked at the piece of broken blade in her palm. She thought about all the humans back on Earth who had no idea their future had just been decided in an arena on a space station. She thought about Varash, who had challenged her expecting an easy victory and instead found something he didn't expect. She thought about strength. Real strength. Not just physical power, but the strength to stand up when everyone expects you to fall. I hope it's for the better, Sarah said quietly. Time would tell. 3 weeks after the duel, Sarah received an unexpected visitor at her quarters on Nexus Prime. When the door chimed, she expected another reporter or council official. Instead, she found Varash standing in the corridor. May I enter? The Crithian asked. Sarah hesitated, then stepped aside. Of course. Varash entered, his large frame making her quarters feel smaller. He looked around at the sparse furnishings, the few personal items she had brought from Earth. You live simply. Military habit, Sarah replied. I don't need much. She gestured to a reinforced chair designed for larger species. Please, sit. Varash sat carefully, and Sarah took a seat across from him. For a moment, neither spoke. I have spent much time thinking since our duel, Varash finally said. Crithians do not accept defeat easily. Our culture teaches that strength is everything. To lose is to be weak. To be weak is to be worthless. He paused. I was angry at first, ashamed. I considered requesting a rematch. And now? Sarah asked. Now I understand that I was fighting with wrong assumptions. I thought humans were weak because your world seemed soft to us. Water. Moderate temperatures. No apex predators that could challenge a grown human easily. Varash's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue color. But I was measuring by Crithian standards. On Crithia, threats are obvious. Large. Aggressive. We evolved to fight them with size and natural weapons. Sarah nodded slowly, beginning to see where he was going. Earth is different, Marish continued. Your threats are everywhere. The gravity itself fights you every moment. The weather can kill. The diseases. The small predators with venom. Even your own bodies work against you. I have read that human backs and knees frequently fail because the design is not perfect for your gravity. He leaned forward. You did not evolve to dominate your world. You evolved to survive it. That is a different kind of strength. It's called persistence hunting, Sarah said. Humans aren't the fastest or strongest, but we can keep going. We can track prey for days. We can recover from injuries that would kill other species. We adapt. Yes, Varash said. Adaptation. That is your true strength. And I did not see it. He reached into a pouch at his belt and removed a datapad. I came to show you something. With your permission. Sarah nodded. Varash activated the pad, and holographic displays filled the air between them. Charts, graphs, genetic data. After the council examination, I requested access to the full data on human physiology. I have been studying it. Varash pointed to one chart. Your species has more genetic diversity than any other in the council. Do you know why? No, Sarah admitted. Because you nearly went extinct. Multiple times. Ice ages. Volcanic winters. Climate shifts. Each time, human population dropped to a few thousand individuals. Most species would have died. But humans survived, and each survival created what your scientists call a genetic bottleneck. The weakest genes were eliminated. Only the strongest, most adaptable individuals passed on their traits. Sarah felt a chill. She had never thought about it that way. Varash continued, pulling up more data. Your healing factor is remarkable. Your immune system can adapt to new diseases in real time. Your brain can rewire itself after damage. And your pain tolerance. He shook his head. In the duel, I struck you at least 15 times with force that should have incapacitated you. You kept fighting. Adrenaline, Sarah said. Fight or flight response. Our bodies produce chemicals that let us ignore pain in dangerous situations. Other species have similar responses, but not like yours. Human adrenaline is more potent. Lasts longer. Your entire biochemistry is designed for crisis survival. Vorash closed the displays. I came to apologize, Commander Chun. I judged your species by appearances and assumptions. I was wrong. Humans are not weak. You are perhaps the toughest species I have encountered. Sarah felt something relax in her chest that she hadn't realized was tense. Thank you. That means a lot, especially coming from you. There is more, Vorash said. I have spoken with my government. Krithia wishes to propose a formal alliance with Earth. We believe humans would be valuable partners, and... He paused, scale shifting to an embarrassed orange color. We would like to learn from you. Your combat techniques. Your survival training. Your methods of adaptation. You want us to train Krithian warriors? Sarah asked, surprised. Yes, and in return, we would offer our technology, our resources, our support in the Council. Krithia has considerable influence. With our backing, Earth's full membership would be assured. Sarah stood and walked to the window. Outside, ships from dozens of worlds moved through the darkness. A few weeks ago, you challenged me to humiliate my species. Now you want to be allies. A few weeks ago, I did not truly see you, Vorash replied. Now I do. Is that not what friendship is? Seeing clearly and choosing to stand together anyway. Sarah smiled slightly. I suppose it is. But this isn't my decision alone. I'd need to discuss it with my superiors, with Earth's government. Of course. I expected nothing less. Vorash stood. I will await your response. As he moved toward the door, Sarah called out. Vorash? Why did you really come here? Not just to apologize or make an offer. There's something else. The Krithian turned back. His scales shifted through several colors before settling on a deep purple that Sarah's translation device indicated meant serious honesty. Because when I was on that arena floor, defeated, you showed mercy. You could have hurt me worse, could have humiliated me further, but you stopped when I yielded. You treated me with honor even though I had shown you none. He met her eyes. That is rare. In the Council, power is everything. Those who have it use it. But you had power over me and chose restraint. That is leadership. That is why I believe humans will be important to the galaxy's future. After Vorash left, Sarah sat alone for a long time. She thought about what he said, about human history, about all the times her species had nearly died and somehow survived, about the strength born from constant struggle. She thought about what the future might hold. Earth wasn't isolated anymore. Humans would be joining a galaxy full of species that had their own strengths, their own histories, their own ways of seeing the universe. Some would be allies. Others would be rivals. But now, at least, humans wouldn't be dismissed. Her comm device chimed. Ambassador Williams. Sarah, you need to see the latest council reports. Support for our membership has jumped significantly. The Krithian endorsement is making waves, and a dozen other species are following their lead. We're also getting requests. Trade negotiations. Technology exchanges. Military consultations. Everyone wants to talk to humans now. That's good news, sir, Sarah said. It is. But it's also pressure. The galaxy is watching us now. Expecting things. We need to make sure we represent Earth well. Williams paused. How are you holding up? Sarah looked at her hands. The cuts had healed, leaving faint scars. I'm okay, sir. Just thinking about what comes next. A lot is going to change, Williams said. For all of us. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we start preparing for the future. The call ended. Sarah dimmed the lights in her quarters and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, humanity's homeworld. A planet that had tried to kill her species for millions of years and instead made them stronger. Now humans were taking that strength to the stars. Sarah wasn't sure what would happen next. But she knew one thing. Humanity would face it the way they always had. With resilience. With adaptation. With the kind of strength that came from refusing to give up. No matter how hard the universe pushed back, she smiled and finally allowed herself to feel proud. 6 months had passed since the duel. Sarah stood in front of a class of 40 recruits in the new training facility on Nexus Prime. Looking at the group, she saw a variety of species. 12 humans, 8 Crithians, 5 Valorians, 3 of the floating Thelonian species, and representatives from a dozen other worlds. All of them watching her with attention. Welcome to Advanced Combat Training, Sarah said. I'm Commander Chun, and I'll be your primary instructor for the next 3 months. A young Crithian in the front row raised a clawed hand. Commander, is it true you defeated Champion Varash in single combat? Sarah nodded. It is, and he's now one of my closest colleagues. In fact, he'll be assisting with your training. She gestured to the doorway where Varash entered, wearing a training uniform marked with instructor insignia. The recruits stirred with interest. Varash took his place beside Sarah. Commander Chun taught me an important lesson, he told the class. Strength comes in many forms. What we'll teach you here is not just how to fight. It's how to survive, how to adapt, how to work together despite your differences. Sarah walked along the line of recruits. You come from worlds with different gravities, atmospheres, and challenges. Some of you are stronger. Some are faster. Some have natural weapons or armor. But none of that matters if you don't understand how to use what you have effectively. She stopped in front of a small Valorian, barely 4 feet tall with delicate purple skin. You, what's your name? Talis, Commander, the Valorian replied nervously. Talis, what's the gravity on your homeworld? 0.4 standard, Commander. Sarah nodded. So you're used to moving in light gravity. That makes you fast and agile here, where we're at 0.8 standard. That's your advantage. Use it. She moved to one of the human recruits, a large man with a shaved head. You, name. Corporal Rodriguez, Commander. Rodriguez, you grew up on Earth, 1.0 gravity. Heavy. How do you feel here? Rodriguez grinned. Like I could jump over a building, Commander. Exactly. You're stronger here than you were at home. But so are other Earth recruits. Your real advantage is that you understand adaptation. You've lived on a world that constantly challenged you. Sarah addressed the whole class. Every one of you has advantages. Everyone has weaknesses. The key is knowing both. She walked to the center of the training floor. We're going to start with something simple. Hand-to-hand basics. No weapons. No armor. Just you and your training partner. She looked at Varsh. Champion, would you assist me with a demonstration? Vorash stepped forward. The recruits watched with intense interest as the two faced each other. When Champion Vorash and I fought in the arena, I made a critical mistake, Sarah said. I tried to match his strength directly. It didn't work. He's bigger, stronger, and trained for direct combat. What changed the fight? A human recruit raised her hand. You adapted, Commander. You used his expectations against him. Exactly. I caught his sword because he didn't expect it. Because humans have grip strength that most species don't. It surprised him. And surprise is often more valuable than strength. Sarah nodded to Varesh, and they began a slow demonstration of fighting techniques. Varesh attacked with a sweeping strike. Sarah didn't block it with force. Instead, she redirected it, using his momentum against him. In Earth martial arts, we have a concept called Ru, or yielding. You don't meet force with force. You move like water, flowing around obstacles. They demonstrated several more techniques, showing how a smaller fighter could overcome a larger one through leverage, timing, and understanding of body mechanics. The recruits watched carefully, taking mental notes after the demonstration. Sarah divided them into training pairs, mixing species intentionally. You'll work with partners from different worlds. Learn their strengths. Understand their weaknesses. Because in real situations, you'll fight alongside beings very different from yourselves. The training session continued for 3 hours. Sarah moved between pairs, correcting stances, suggesting techniques, praising good instincts. Varesh did the same, bringing his years of combat experience to the instruction. When the session ended, Sarah stood before the exhausted recruits. Good work today. Tomorrow we'll start weapons training. Dismissed. As the recruits filed out, talking among themselves in various languages, Varesh approached Sarah. They're learning quickly. This mixed species approach is effective. It has to be, Sarah replied. The council is changing. The old ways of each species keeping to themselves aren't working anymore. We need cooperation. Varash's scales shifted to thoughtful blue. Much has changed in 6 months. Earth is now a full council member. Human technology and training methods are in high demand. The video of our duel has been viewed billions of times across the galaxy. He paused. Do you ever regret it? That moment changed your life completely. Sarah considered the question. She thought about her old life, commanding a ship, doing routine patrols. That seemed like years ago now, not months. I regret that I had to fight you. I didn't want to humiliate you or anyone else. But I don't regret standing up for humanity. Someone had to show the galaxy that we belong here. You did more than that, Varesh said. You showed that assumptions can be dangerous. That judging by appearances is foolish. The Council is re-evaluating dozens of species now, looking closer at their capabilities. Some species previously considered weak are being reassessed. Sarah walked to a display on the wall. It showed the 2 halves of Varash's broken sword, mounted in a clear case. They had become a symbol, representing the breaking of old assumptions. Do you know what surprises me most? Not the political changes or the attention. It's how many species told me they felt dismissed by the Council. Smaller species, peaceful ones, species that couldn't compete in the warrior culture that dominated. They said our duel gave them hope. Hope for what? That there are different kinds of strength. That you don't have to be the biggest or most aggressive to matter. That surviving and adapting counts for something. Sarah turned back to Varesh. The galaxy had a very limited view of what strength means. We're helping to change that. Varesh nodded slowly. Yes, and it is needed. The Council faces challenges that cannot be solved by warriors alone. Climate disasters, resource shortages, complex diplomatic situations. These require the strength of endurance, of patience, of cooperation. He looked at the broken sword. I am glad we fought, Commander Chun. Not because I enjoyed losing, but because it taught me lessons I needed to learn. They stood together in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Sarah's come device chimed. She checked it and smiled. It's Ambassador Williams. Earth's first deep space colony ship just launched. They're heading to a new world in the Kepler system. Humanity expands, Varesh observed. We do. It's what we're good at. Finding new challenges and figuring out how to survive them. Sarah looked out the training facility's wide windows at the stars beyond. I used to worry about how humans would fit into the galaxy. If we were tough enough, smart enough, strong enough to compete with species that had thousands of years of space travel experience. And now? Now I know that we bring something different. We bring persistence. The ability to take hits and keep moving forward. To find solutions that others wouldn't think of because we're used to solving problems with limited resources. To work together even when it's hard. She smiled. Earth tried to kill us for millions of years. The galaxy is actually less hostile in comparison. Vorash's scales shifted to amused green. That is a uniquely human perspective. A group of recruits appeared at the door, looking hesitant. The small Valorian Talus stepped forward. Commander? Some of us were wondering. Could you tell us about Earth? What it's really like to live there? Sarah gestured for them to enter. Sure. Take a seat. The recruits sat on the training mats, forming a semicircle. More recruits passing by saw the gathering and joined. Soon, 20 beings from a dozen different worlds sat listening as Sarah described Earth. She told them about rainforests and deserts, about oceans so deep that the pressure would crush most spacecraft, about storms that could level cities and ice ages that covered continents, about how humans had lived in nearly every environment on the planet, from frozen tundras to scorching deserts, always adapting, always surviving. It sounds terrifying, one recruit said. Sarah laughed. It is sometimes. But it's also beautiful. The diversity of life, the constant change, the challenge of it all. Earth made us what we are. And now we take those lessons to the stars. She looked around at the gathered recruits, seeing their different faces, their different forms, all paying attention. This was why she did this. Not for fame or recognition, but to build understanding between species that had spent too long seeing only their differences. We're all products of our worlds, Sarah said. Each of you evolved to survive your particular environment. Those environments gave you unique strengths. My job, and Champion Vorash's job, is to help you recognize those strengths and learn to combine them with the strengths of others. Because the challenges ahead will require all of us working together. Later that night, after all the recruits had left, Sarah walked through the quiet facility alone. She thought about the path that had brought her here. One duel, one moment of choosing to stand up rather than back down. It had changed everything.